The flight attendant's voice cut sharply through the quiet cabin, loud enough to draw every passenger's attention. "I'm asking you one last time, move to the back of the plane immediately, or I'll have security escort you off." Her tone was icy, dripping with disdain. Sitting calmly in her seat, Sophia Bennett, a poised woman in her late 30s, remained composed, her dark eyes unwavering. She met the attendant's stare without a hint of intimidation, her voice steady yet firm as she replied, "I've already explained. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Whispers surged throughout the cabin as curious passengers watched the confrontation unfold. Some shifted uncomfortably, others subtly reached for their phones, sensing the tension escalating. The flight attendant, Heather Mitchell, flushed visibly, angered by Sophia's quiet defiance. Heather had judged her from the moment Sophia boarded, assuming, without reason, that she didn't belong in the luxury section of this exclusive private jet. What Heather, and every passenger watching, didn't realize was that the woman they saw as powerless was far from ordinary. Sophia wasn't just another passenger, she was the billionaire owner of the plane they sat in and the airline that operated it. Yet, she remained silent about her true identity, allowing Heather to continue her humiliating tirade, observing quietly how deeply prejudice had influenced the attendant's behavior. As Heather's frustration boiled over, Sophia held her composure, knowing she held the ultimate trump card. Soon, the very assumptions Heather made would unravel dramatically, leaving everyone aboard stunned by the powerful revelation about to come. What unfolded next wouldn't just shock the passengers, it would change the flight attendant's life forever. The private jet stood majestically on the runway, gleaming under the warm afternoon sun. Its polished white exterior and sleek design spoke of luxury, exclusivity, and elegance. Inside, the cabin was nothing short of extravagant: plush leather seats, hand-stitched with immaculate precision, gold-plated accents on every fixture, and soft, ambient lighting creating an atmosphere that felt more like an upscale lounge than an aircraft interior. Passengers boarded leisurely, each greeted personally by the crew. Among them was Sophia Bennett, a poised and sophisticated woman in her late 30s, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy blue blazer and matching slacks. Sophia carried herself with an understated elegance, drawing subtle yet curious glances from fellow passengers as she moved quietly to her seat. Although she made no effort to draw attention to herself, there was something inherently captivating in her calm confidence. Heather Mitchell, the lead flight attendant, stood at the entrance greeting passengers warmly, but her expression noticeably cooled as Sophia approached. Heather, meticulous in her appearance and sharply dressed in her pristine uniform, held strong opinions about who belonged aboard an aircraft of such prestige. Her judgmental gaze lingered on Sophia briefly, sizing her up with an air of skepticism before she turned away without so much as a welcoming smile. Nearby, Mr. and Mrs. Raymond, a well-traveled couple in their 60s, settled comfortably into their seats. Mrs. Raymond pulled out her knitting, while Mr. Raymond unfolded his newspaper, both entirely at ease in the luxurious surroundings. Heather's demeanor shifted noticeably warmer as she interacted with them, offering refreshments and exchanging pleasantries. The stark difference in Heather's treatment did not escape Sophia, who quietly noted the subtle biases at play. As the plane's doors sealed shut, passengers relaxed, sipping champagne and settling in for the luxurious flight ahead. Unbeknownst to everyone aboard, this tranquil atmosphere would soon be disrupted, turning a routine flight into an unforgettable journey, a powerful lesson in assumptions, respect, and hidden identities. Sophia Bennett's quiet presence was about to challenge the very heart of prejudice, altering perceptions forever. As the private jet cruised gently through the clouds, Heather Mitchell, the senior flight attendant, began her routine check through the cabin, her high heels clicking softly against the polished floor. Heather was known for her sharp professionalism and impeccable appearance, but beneath her flawless exterior lay a rigid set of assumptions about who belonged in the luxurious atmosphere of a private plane. Her eyes settled on Sophia Bennett, quietly reading a book in her seat. Heather paused momentarily, her lips tightening slightly as she scrutinized Sophia's understated appearance. With a forced smile, she approached. "Excuse me, ma'am," Heather said, her voice deceptively polite but tinged with unmistakable condescension. "I believe you're seated in the wrong section." Sophia glanced up calmly, meeting Heather's gaze with quiet confidence. "I think you might want to double-check your passenger list," she replied softly but firmly. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." Heather's eyebrows arched sharply, irritation flickering across her composed face. Her voice hardened. "Ma'am, this area is reserved exclusively for elite passengers. Perhaps the back section of the aircraft would be more suitable for you." Nearby passengers began to take notice, exchanging curious glances as whispers spread through the cabin. Mrs. Raymond momentarily stopped knitting, her eyes shifting discreetly toward the brewing tension. Mr. Raymond folded down the corner of his newspaper, subtly observing the escalating exchange with growing unease. Sophia remained unruffled, setting her book down slowly. Her voice was measured and polite, yet it carried an edge that demanded respect. "I assure you, Heather, there's no mistake. I belong in this seat." Heather's cheeks flushed slightly, her professional composure beginning to unravel. Determined not to back down, she folded her arms, her voice rising enough for others nearby to overhear. "If you refuse to cooperate, I'll have no choice but to call security." A businessman seated across the aisle frowned, clearly uncomfortable with Heather's harsh demeanor. He leaned forward slightly, as if ready to intervene, but hesitated, unsure of how to approach the escalating confrontation. Sophia simply leaned back, her demeanor calm but resolute. "You're welcome to call security," she replied evenly, "but I'm staying exactly where I am." The tension thickened palpably in the cabin. Heather's authority hung precariously in the air, challenged openly by Sophia's quiet yet powerful defiance. Unbeknownst to Heather and the curious passengers watching, this confrontation was only the beginning of a revelation that would soon leave everyone aboard speechless. Heather's patience wore thin, frustration visibly mounting on her face as Sophia refused to move. She glanced around, noticing the murmurs from passengers growing louder. Determined to regain control, Heather took a step closer, raising her voice to ensure everyone on the plane could hear clearly. "I've asked you politely, but if you insist on causing trouble, I'll have no choice but to call security," Heather announced, each word sharpened with a condescending tone. Passengers around them shifted uncomfortably, some whispering questions, others openly staring, their curiosity piqued by the drama unfolding in the luxurious setting. Sophia calmly looked up, her steady gaze unwavering. "I've explained that I belong here. Perhaps you should reconsider before escalating this further," she replied evenly, her voice composed yet firm. Her quiet confidence only seemed to inflame Heather's irritation further. Lauren, a younger flight attendant, nervously approached, clutching the passenger manifest. "Heather, maybe we should double-check the list again," she suggested hesitantly, clearly uncomfortable with the unfolding conflict. Heather abruptly turned to Lauren, eyes blazing with annoyance. "Stay out of this. I've got it under control," she snapped, silencing Lauren instantly. The young attendant took a step back, her eyes darting apologetically towards Sophia before retreating quietly. Now openly agitated, Heather fixed her gaze back on Sophia, deliberately raising her voice once more. I won't ask again. Move immediately or face the consequences. Sophia remained seated, her expression calm and unbothered. Passengers leaned forward, their intrigue growing as tension radiated through the cabin. Mrs. Raymond nervously clutched her knitting needles, while Mr. Raymond shook his head disapprovingly. A businessman seated nearby cleared his throat, visibly troubled by the attendant's confrontational behavior, yet uncertain how to intervene. Heather, sensing support waning around her, became increasingly desperate. She leaned in closer, lowering her voice menacingly. "You might think you can ignore the rules, but I won't tolerate this disrespect," she hissed, her words dripping with disdain. Without warning, she deliberately knocked over a nearby glass of water onto Sophia's lap, feigning shock. "Oh! Look what you've done! You're making a scene," Heather exclaimed theatrically, raising her voice to draw even more attention to Sophia. Gasps rippled through the passengers, astonished by Heather's audacity and the blatant disrespect of her action. Sophia, however, simply took a calm breath, looking directly at Heather with a composed authority that caught everyone off guard. "You've crossed a line," she stated softly yet powerfully. "And I promise you, this is a mistake you will soon regret." The cabin fell into stunned silence, the severity of Sophia's words sinking in, signaling that this escalating confrontation was far from over. The tension in the luxurious cabin had reached its boiling point. Heather, increasingly frustrated by Sophia's unyielding composure, finally lost her restraint. Her face flushed crimson as embarrassment mingled with rage, realizing she had lost control of the situation entirely. Passengers leaned forward in their seats, breath held, phones discreetly recording, sensing the climax approaching. "You think you can sit there defying me, acting superior?" Heather snapped, her voice shaking with anger. Sophia remained seated, calm yet resolute, which only served to fuel Heather's fury further. Suddenly, in a shocking moment, Heather raised her hand and slapped Sophia sharply across the face. The sound echoed through the plush cabin like a gunshot, startling every passenger into stunned silence. Mrs. Raymond dropped her knitting needles onto her lap in horror, and Mr. Raymond's jaw fell open in disbelief. Nearby, the businessman stood halfway up from his seat, his expression a mixture of shock and outrage. Sophia's head turned slightly from the force, but she quickly recovered, straightening slowly. She didn't yell, didn't retaliate. Instead, she raised her eyes to meet Heather's, calmness radiating from her in stark contrast to Heather's visibly unraveling demeanor. Sophia's voice, when she spoke, was low yet carried a powerful authority that silenced every whisper. "You have no idea the gravity of the mistake you've just made," Sophia said quietly, her words hanging in the air with undeniable weight. Heather faltered, her previous bravado vanishing instantly. Panic flickered across her eyes as she looked around, suddenly aware of the cameras pointed at her, the eyes filled with judgment and shock. Even Lauren, who had remained silent until now, stared at Heather in absolute disbelief, her face pale with anxiety. Realizing she had publicly crossed an unforgivable line, Heather desperately attempted damage control. I didn't mean to, I lost control," she stammered weakly, her voice cracking. But no apology could repair the damage done. The severity of her actions, witnessed by all, was undeniable. Sophia reached calmly for her phone, swiftly sending a short message without another word. Heather's eyes followed the movement nervously, dread settling into her gut. The silent authority Sophia wielded was now unmistakable, leaving Heather fully aware that her rash actions would soon have profound consequences. Passengers exchanged tense glances, murmuring quietly, the incident permanently etched in their minds. This was no longer merely a dispute about seats or status, it had escalated into an unforgettable, defining moment, setting the stage for a dramatic reckoning. A heavy silence hung over the lavish cabin, broken only by the faint hum of the aircraft's engines. Passengers held their breath, their eyes shifting nervously between Sophia and Heather, anxiously awaiting the next turn of events. Heather, still visibly shaken, stood stiffly in the aisle, desperately trying to regain her composure. Sophia remained seated, her expression serene yet unreadable, the red mark from the slap clearly visible but seemingly unimportant to her poised demeanor. Moments later, the cockpit door opened swiftly, drawing everyone's attention. Captain Reynolds stepped out, his face grave. He scanned the cabin briefly before moving decisively toward Heather, his movements authoritative. Heather turned to face him, uncertainty evident in her eyes. "Captain Reynolds, thank goodness you're here," Heather began, voice trembling slightly as she attempted to take control again. "We have a situation." But he interrupted firmly, raising a hand to silence her. "Actually, Heather, there's something you need to know." He paused deliberately, allowing the full weight of the moment to sink in. "We received direct instructions from headquarters. The owner of this aircraft is on board." Heather froze, color draining from her face. Her eyes widened in disbelief, flicking anxiously between the captain and Sophia. "Wait, what are you talking about? Who's the owner?" Captain Reynolds turned respectfully toward Sophia, nodding slightly in her direction. "Ms. Sophia Mitchell here owns not only this jet but the entire airline. She's your employer." The revelation hit like a thunderbolt, shocking everyone in the cabin. Gasps erupted, passengers murmured excitedly, and several quickly raised their phones to capture the stunning twist. Mr. Raymond removed his glasses, cleaning them hurriedly as if hoping it might clarify the situation, while Mrs. Raymond looked toward Sophia with newfound admiration. Heather's knees weakened, her earlier arrogance evaporating entirely. She staggered back slightly, her mouth opening and closing without any sound emerging. Realization dawned harshly on her. She had not only mistreated a passenger but had publicly humiliated and assaulted the woman who held her career in the palm of her hand. Sophia slowly stood up, straightening her tailored blazer calmly. Her gaze swept around the cabin, meeting the eyes of every passenger before finally settling back on Heather. She spoke quietly, yet her words carried immense power. "You judged me, Heather. You treated me poorly because you made assumptions. Your actions today didn't just humiliate me, they disgraced yourself and this airline. Now, it's time to face the consequences." Heather could barely respond, her voice reduced to a whisper of desperation. "Please, Ms. Mitchell, I had no idea." Sophia raised her hand gently, cutting off the pleading instantly. "Exactly, Heather. You had no idea, because you never bothered to ask. That was your mistake." The incident quickly became a national sensation, spreading like wildfire across social media platforms and news channels. Within hours, videos capturing Heather's confrontation with Sophia went viral, generating millions of views. The public reaction was swift and overwhelmingly supportive of Sophia. Hashtags like #RespectForSophia, #JusticeInTheAir, and #StopPrejudiceNow flooded Twitter and Instagram, igniting passionate discussions about racial profiling and the importance of dignity and respect for all individuals, regardless of their background. Media outlets from CNN to local news stations aired the footage repeatedly, featuring expert panels and activists discussing the broader implications of Heather's actions. Influential figures and celebrities voiced their solidarity, commending Sophia's remarkable composure in the face of blatant discrimination. Talk show hosts and commentators applauded her courage, highlighting her calm yet powerful response as a model of grace under pressure. However, the backlash against Heather was fierce and unrelenting. Internet users uncovered her identity within hours, leading to a barrage of negative reviews directed toward her personally and professionally. Many demanded accountability and called for airlines nationwide to enforce stricter anti-discrimination training and protocols to prevent future incidents. Amidst this widespread condemnation, some viewers saw this as a pivotal moment to reflect on their own biases, sparking broader conversations about inclusivity and unconscious prejudice. Schools, community groups, and corporations cited Sophia's experience as an essential case study for diversity and sensitivity training programs, aiming to foster a deeper understanding and awareness among employees and students. Sophia, who initially chose silence following the viral incident, soon emerged to address the public directly, affirming her commitment to promoting respect and equity not only within her airline but across society at large. Her message resonated deeply, transforming a painful moment into a powerful call for meaningful change. In the weeks following the incident, Sophia's dignified response inspired countless individuals across the country to reflect deeply on their own attitudes and actions. Employees within her airline reported a noticeable transformation in workplace culture. Flight attendants and ground staff alike spoke openly about embracing a higher standard of empathy, respect, and sensitivity toward every passenger. Inspired by Sophia's leadership, the airline swiftly implemented mandatory training programs emphasizing inclusivity in anti-discrimination practices, setting a new benchmark within the industry. Outside the airline, Sophia's story resonated profoundly within diverse communities. Teachers shared the video in classrooms as part of lessons about respect, dignity, and standing up against prejudice. Parents discussed the incident at home with their children, using Sophia's experience as a powerful lesson in courage, self-respect, and the importance of judging others by character rather than appearance. In offices and community centers nationwide, her calm yet firm approach became a symbol of how to respond effectively in situations of conflict or discrimination. Sophia also personally received thousands of supportive letters and messages, many from individuals who recounted their own painful experiences with discrimination. They expressed gratitude to Sophia for giving them strength and encouraging them to speak out against injustice. Additionally, the young flight attendant, Emma, who initially hesitated but later stood up for Sophia, found renewed confidence in her professional and personal life, eventually mentoring others on the importance of integrity and compassion. Ultimately, what began as a distressing incident became a catalyst for positive change, spreading a message of unity and respect. Sophia's example didn't just change airline policies, it reshaped how countless individuals viewed their roles in fostering empathy and dignity within their own communities. In the quiet moments after everything settled, Sophia often reflected on how one challenging experience aboard her own aircraft had sparked such profound and meaningful change. It wasn't the injustice itself that defined her journey, but rather her composed response and unwavering commitment to dignity and respect. Sophia had transformed humiliation into empowerment, showing people everywhere that true strength comes from standing firm in one's principles, no matter the circumstances. Her courage resonated widely, reminding communities across America of the importance of kindness, fairness, and equality. Sophia's leadership inspired both young and old to embrace empathy, teaching them that every individual, regardless of their background or appearance, deserved equal respect. Her actions weren't just a demonstration of grace under pressure, they served as a powerful lesson in confronting prejudice, dismantling assumptions, and reshaping societal standards. In her continued role at the helm of her successful airline, Sophia prioritized creating a culture rooted in respect and inclusion, reinforcing that luxury and excellence should never overshadow compassion and understanding. Her airline became an industry leader not only for its premium services but also for its genuine commitment to honoring the dignity of every passenger. Sophia's story became an enduring example for others, inspiring countless individuals to stand up confidently when faced with adversity, prejudice, or disrespect. She proved that true power isn't measured in wealth or status, but in the ability to lead with compassion, integrity, and strength. Sophia's journey demonstrated that meaningful change starts from within, one voice, one action, one moment at a time. Her legacy is a reminder to everyone that standing for what's right can ignite a movement, inspiring us all to create a kinder, more inclusive world. If Sophia's story resonated deeply with you, let it serve as a powerful reminder that respect, fairness, and compassion are values we must actively uphold every day. It's easy to feel inspired by one extraordinary moment, but true change comes from ongoing, deliberate actions taken by each and every one of us. Think about the moments in your life when you've witnessed injustice or discrimination, moments where perhaps you stayed silent. Today, you have the power to rewrite that narrative. Make a commitment now, right here, to stand up whenever you see someone treated unfairly, no matter who they are or how they look. Be the voice of compassion in your community, your workplace, or your home. Share this message with your friends, your family, and your networks. Encourage those around you to not only reflect on their own biases but also to act consciously against injustice. Remember, the strength Sophia demonstrated doesn't require wealth or status, just the courage to speak up and the integrity to stand firm. Subscribe to our channel and join our growing community dedicated to spreading positivity, empathy, and respect. Click the like button if you believe everyone deserves dignity and fairness. Share your experiences in the comments section below. Your stories can inspire others to take meaningful action too. Together, let's ensure that no one else experiences what Sophia endured. Let's actively build a society where respect is the standard, not the exception. Every action counts, every voice matters. Take this opportunity, right now, to make a difference. Because when we stand united against prejudice and injustice, we can create lasting change, shaping a world where everyone is truly valued for who they are. In life, true character is revealed by how we treat others, especially those who appear to have nothing to offer us in return. As we age, we realize that respect, empathy, and kindness transcend any measure of wealth, status, or appearance. This story teaches us a powerful lesson: assumptions and prejudice not only harm others but diminish our own integrity. Each interaction presents us with a choice: to uplift and honor, or to judge and demean. For those of us who have lived long enough to witness many changes, we understand deeply that dignity and compassion are timeless values. Let us choose consciously to lead by example, treating everyone with fairness and respect, no matter their background. By doing so, we nurture a community that honors diversity, embraces understanding, and fosters genuine connections. Remember, the legacy we leave behind is not determined by our possessions or status, but by the kindness we show and the respect we give. Let this wisdom guide our daily actions, ensuring our later years become an inspiration to those who follow.